The world watched as two of its most powerful men spoke across continents. President Trump, "China wants peace, but we will defend our interests," said Xi Jinping, his voice calm yet firm over the phone. It was a tense moment. American tariffs on Chinese goods had just been announced, rattling global markets and testing the fragile ties between the world's two largest economies. Reporters scrambled to interpret every word, every pause. Xi, the leader of 1.4 billion people, was not rattled. He spoke slowly, using careful language. The call was about more than trade, it was about the future of power, technology, and influence in the 21st century. Behind the headlines, Xi Jinping had become the face of a rising China. He was confident, commanding, and determined to reshape global rules. How did he get here? What forged the man behind the calm voice? To answer these questions, we must look back into a childhood marked by privilege, trauma, and a unique kind of education in survival. Xi Jinping was born in Beijing in 1953 to a family at the heart of China's communist revolution. His father, Xi Jinping, was a hero of the party and one of Mao Zedong's trusted revolutionaries. This gave young Xi a privileged start. He lived in elite compounds, surrounded by the children of China's leaders. The future seemed bright, but China in the 1960s was full of danger, even for the powerful. Mao launched the Cultural Revolution, a movement meant to root out enemies and purify communism. Suddenly, privilege became a target. The children of high-ranking officials, including Xi, were labeled as princelings. They faced suspicion and hostility. Xi's world turned upside down. His father was denounced and sent to work in a factory. The family's home was ransacked. Xi, only a boy, watched his family fall from grace. The violence of the Cultural Revolution was everywhere. Struggle sessions, public humiliations, and chaos became daily life. In this world, survival meant learning to be careful, quiet, and strong. These early shocks would shape Xi's understanding of power and risk. Xi Jinping's father, Xi Jinping, was both a role model and a warning. Once a powerful leader, Xi Jinping was imprisoned for years. He was accused of being disloyal to Mao, even though he had helped build the communist state. For young Xi, this was a lesson in the dangers of politics. Despite being punished, Xi Jinping remained loyal to the communist cause. He never turned against the party. He taught his son to endure hardship and to hide his feelings. "Eat bitterness," he would say, a Chinese phrase meaning to endure pain without complaint. Xi Jinping learned to keep his emotions in check, to trust few people, and to work hard, no matter the circumstances. At school, Xi was bullied for his family background. He became cautious, learning when to speak and when to stay silent. He read books on Chinese history and politics, searching for clues about how power works and how to avoid the fate of his father. Xi watched as friends betrayed each other to survive. He saw how loyalty could be both a strength and a vulnerability. These experiences convinced him, to survive, you must understand power, and you must never let your guard down. As the Cultural Revolution grew more violent, Xi Jinping's life became even harder. At age 15, he was sent to a poor village in rural Shanxi province as part of Mao's campaign to re-educate privileged youth. The comforts of Beijing were gone. Now, he slept in a cave and worked alongside peasants, digging ditches and carrying manure. The days were long and backbreaking. For years, Xi had little food and no family nearby. Many urban youths struggled or gave up, but Xi chose a different path. He listened to the villagers, learned their dialect, and earned their trust. He joined the Communist Party, even after his application was rejected several times. He was determined to prove himself, not just as a princeling, but as a true believer in the party's mission. This period hardened Xi. He learned how to keep secrets and how to win support from ordinary people. The experience gave him a sense of mission to restore stability and strength to China, so others would not have to endure the chaos he had seen. When the Cultural Revolution ended, Xi Jinping returned to Beijing. He studied chemical engineering at Tsinghua University, which is, one of China's top schools. But politics was where his true ambitions lay. He started his career at the bottom, working in small towns and provinces, far from Beijing's spotlight. Xi was careful and disciplined. He avoided attention and built a reputation for solving problems quietly. In Fujian and then Zhejiang provinces, he fought corruption and promoted economic growth. Local officials and business leaders saw him as tough but fair. Over the next decades he climbed the ranks of the Communist Party, always moving forward, never making enemies he couldn't handle. Xi's big break came in 2007, when he was chosen for a key leadership post in Shanghai. Soon after, he joined China's top leadership body, the Politburo Standing Committee. In 2012, Xi became the General Secretary of the Communist Party, the most powerful job in China. A year later, he became president. His rise was not quick or easy, but it was built on persistence, caution, and the lessons of hardship. From the start, Xi Jinping talked about the Chinese dream. He wanted to restore China's greatness after what he called a century of humiliation by foreign powers. Xi believed China should be rich, strong, and respected. He called for national rejuvenation and promised to build a moderately prosperous society for all. Xi's vision was bold. He said China must play a bigger role in the world. At home, he demanded discipline and loyalty to the party. Abroad, he spoke of a new era where China would set its own path, not follow the West. He admired the strength of China's ancient emperors and the discipline of the communist revolutionaries. For Xi, unity and order were more important than individual freedom. He believed only a strong leader could guide such a large, complex country. Xi's dream was not just for economic growth, but for respect, security, and global influence. Under Xi Jinping, China changed at a dizzying speed. He launched huge building projects, new cities, high-speed railways, and modern airports. The skyline of Shanghai and Shenzhen rose higher each year. China became a leader in 5G, artificial intelligence, and green energy. Xi invested heavily in technology, believing it was the key to independence and power. He pushed companies like Huawei and Alibaba to compete with American giants. He promised to lift millions out of poverty, and by 2020, China declared victory in its fight against extreme poverty. Xi also built new alliances through the Belt and Road Initiative, a massive network of roads, ports, and railways across Asia, Africa, and Europe. He wanted China to be at the center of global trade and influence. But these achievements came with tighter control. Xi cracked down on dissent, censored the press, and demanded absolute loyalty to the party. Xi Jinping's rise changed the balance between China and the United States. At first, relations seemed warm. There were friendly meetings with President Obama, and later, dramatic phone calls with President Trump, but trust quickly faded. The United States grew worried about China's new strength, especially in technology and the military. Trade wars erupted. The US accused China of stealing technology and unfair trade practices. China replied that America was trying to hold it back. Tensions rose over Taiwan, the South China Sea, and human rights issues in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. Xi responded by urging China to rely less on foreign technology. He called for self-reliance and prepared for what he called protracted struggle with the West. The world watched as the two giants competed in diplomacy, business, and even space. Under Xi, China became more assertive. America now saw China not just as a partner, but as a rival. The hardships Xi Jinping experienced as a child never left him. He learned that safety comes from strength, and that chaos must be avoided at all costs. This shapes how he leads today. Xi trusts only a small circle of loyal officials. He believes in strict discipline, both for himself and for China. Xi's early pain made him cautious but determined. He wants to protect China from the kind of turmoil he saw during the Cultural Revolution. That's why he cracks down on dissent and calls for unity. He believes that a strong, stable China needs a strong, stable leader. His vision for China is rooted in both pride and fear. Pride in his country's achievements, and fear of losing control. The lessons of his youth drive his ambition to make China respected, powerful, and never again at the mercy of outside forces. Xi's life story explains not just his rise to power, but his unshakable belief in China's destiny, and his own place at its center.